The first thing Karen said to me wasn't welcome. It wasn't hello. It was, you don't live here. She said it like she owned the air between us, like the street curved because she allowed it to. I had just stepped out of the moving truck, cardboard box in hand, new keys in pocket, fresh start in mind, and already she was shaking, not nervous, angry. The house sat on a slight incline, white brick, black shutters, wide porch with 2 rocking chairs the previous owner left behind. Beautiful. And technically, outside her HOA. That detail mattered more than the square footage. Karen marched across the lawn without hesitation, clipboard in hand, phone recording. You need to remove that truck immediately, she snapped. I blinked. Why? This is a restricted residential community. I glanced at the street sign behind her. It clearly marked the HOA boundary 3 houses down. Mine wasn't inside it. I'm not in the HOA, I said calmly. Her smile didn't move. Yes, you are. Some people doubt themselves. Karen never had. She spoke in declarations, not discussions. You purchased property within our community grid. Grid? I asked. Yes, which means you fall under HOA governance. I almost laughed. Almost. I walked back to the truck, pulled out the folder, closing documents, county zoning map, highlighted, stamped, signed. I handed it to her. She didn't look. I don't need to see that. That told me everything. You will comply, she said. With what? With community standards. I leaned against the truck. I don't belong to your community. Her jaw tightened. You'll regret that attitude. Curtains shifted. Garage doors paused mid-close. They were used to this, used to her voice, used to her authority, but they weren't used to someone not folding. Karen stepped closer, close enough that I could smell her perfume. If you refuse compliance, she said quietly, we'll seize you by force if we have to. The word hung there. Force. She said it casually, like she'd said it before. That annoyed her more than if I had yelled. You can't seize property you don't govern, I replied evenly. Her face turned red. You don't understand how this works. No, she didn't understand how this worked. I pointed to the sign again. HOA boundary marker. Installed by the city. Public record. Permanent. You're 3 houses short, I said. Her hand shook. You're in our visual perimeter. I paused. Visual perimeter? Yes, which affects property values. That was new, right there on the lawn. I need enforcement, she said into her phone. He's being non-compliant. I smiled slightly. With what? I asked again. She didn't answer. A white SUV pulled up 20 minutes later. HOA logo on the side. 2 men stepped out, branded polos, matching clipboards. They walked toward me like I'd skipped dues. Karen pointed dramatically. That one. Sir, one of them said, you're required to register your property with the association. No, I replied. I'm not. He glanced at Karen. She nodded aggressively. He turned back to me. We can place a lien. For what? Non-compliance. With rules I never agreed to? He hesitated. That hesitation cracked the scene. Title report, parcel number, boundary confirmation, stamped by the county assessor. Clear language. Property lies outside HOA jurisdiction. I handed it over. This time the man read it. Twice. His tone changed. Ma'am, he said to Karen carefully, this address isn't listed in our registry. Her eyes widened. It was supposed to be. That was interesting. Supposed to be. Karen had been trying for years to absorb the outer properties, increase dues revenue, expand control, but the previous owner refused. Now she saw me, new, unfamiliar, and assumed I'd fold. You don't get to opt out, she snapped. I didn't opt out, I said. I was never in. Silence, heavy, public, phones out, whispers spreading. For the first time, Karen didn't look confident. She looked threatened. This isn't over, she said. It never is with people like you. I didn't respond. I just started unloading my furniture. A letter appeared on my door. Typed. Official looking. Notice of mandatory HOA enrollment. No legal basis, no signature, just intimidation. I smiled, because now she'd put it in writing. Karen didn't wait. People like her never do. They escalate. 3 days after I moved in, I received a certified envelope. Return address, Community Compliance Division. Not the HOA's official name, just something that sounded intimidating enough. Inside was a document titled, Notice of Intent to File Lion Amount Due, $2,400 Reason. Failure to register property and non-compliance with architectural standards. I read it twice. Then I laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was sloppy. You can't lien property that isn't legally bound to your association. That's not opinion. That's contract law. And contracts require signatures. Mine didn't exist. She sent it certified mail, which meant she wanted proof I received it, which meant there was now a paper trail, which meant she just created evidence. I didn't confront her. I went to the county clerk instead, pulled the parcel map again, confirmed the subdivision boundaries, asked a very simple question. Has any HOA ever been recorded against my property? The clerk checked. No, she said. Never. Clean, unattached, independent. When I got home, there was a white sedan parked across the street, engine off, windows cracked. Inside, Karen, watching. She didn't wave, she didn't smile. She stared. The following morning, the moving truck company called me. Sir, someone reported unauthorized commercial activity at your residence? I blinked. What? They said you're operating a business out of a residential property. Of course she did. A city code officer knocked that afternoon. Polite, professional. I received a complaint, he said. I invited him inside. Empty rooms, furniture still boxed. He walked through once, then stopped. Is this about the HOA boundary? He asked quietly. I raised an eyebrow. You've seen this before? He nodded. She tries. She's been pushing to expand jurisdiction for years, he said, but she doesn't have the authority. He handed me his card. If she files anything official, call me. That card mattered, more than she realized. This one wasn't certified, just taped to my door. All caps. Final notice before enforcement action. Enforcement action. Interesting phrase. No legal code cited, no statute referenced, just intimidation language. That evening, an older man from across the street walked over. Quiet. Careful. She did this to the previous owner too, he said. Tried to pressure him into joining. Why? I asked. He looked around before answering. More houses means more money, more votes, more control. That was the real perimeter, not visual, financial. 2 days later, an SUV with the HOA logo rolled slowly past my driveway. Twice. Then stopped. A man stepped out and photographed my house. I stepped outside. Need something? I asked. He didn't answer, just took another picture. That night, an email arrived. She must have found my address from closing documents. Subject line, compliance or escalation. The body read, You are interfering with community integrity. If you continue resisting, we will pursue all available enforcement measures, including physical intervention if necessary. Physical intervention. There it was. Again. In writing. I printed it, saved it, forwarded it to the city code officer and to a real estate attorney. Short, direct. She's bluffing, but she's also reckless. He paused. If she attempts any physical action, that becomes criminal. Good, clear, simple. A flyer appeared in mailboxes inside the HOA. Emergency session, boundary enforcement discussion. My address was listed. They were talking about me. Without jurisdiction, I didn't attend. But someone recorded it and sent it to me anonymously. Karen stood at the front, angry, animated. He's undermining our authority, she said. If we allow one property to reject us, the entire structure weakens. Someone asked quietly, but isn't he outside the boundary? She slammed her clipboard down. Boundaries can change. That sentence chilled the room. She proposed voting to absorb adjacent non-member properties. Without consent, without contract, without legality. Some board members hesitated. Others looked uncomfortable. But fear is persuasive, especially when wrapped in leadership. Barely. 3 votes against, 4 for. It didn't pass, but it was close. Too close. The next afternoon, she walked onto my porch. No knocking, just presence. "You're making this harder than it needs to be," she said. I stood in the doorway. Harder for who? For everyone. "No," I replied calmly. "Just for you." She stepped closer. "If paperwork doesn't work," she whispered, "we'll make you comply another way." There it was. No more ambiguity, no more coded language, direct, recorded. Because this time, my doorbell camera was blinking red. She glanced up, saw it. Her face changed. Too late. I didn't threaten, didn't argue, just watched her walk away. Angry, exposed. It came 2 days later, formal, threatening tone. Claimed implied covenant participation. A legal theory so weak it barely stands in court. My attorney laughed when he read it. "She's reaching," he said. "Badly." Up until now, she believed I was just stubborn. Now she knew I was prepared. And preparation scares people who rely on intimidation. The code officer forwarded the emails to the city attorney. The city attorney forwarded them to the county. Because physical intervention from a private HOA? That's not governance. That's coercion. A letter arrived at her address from the county requesting clarification of HOA boundary enforcement practices. Official, stamped, serious. She showed up again, red-faced, furious. "You reported me?" she shouted from the sidewalk. I didn't step outside. I didn't need to. "I reported the threat," I replied through the door. "This isn't finished." Maybe not. But now, it wasn't just between us. The county doesn't move fast. It moves deliberately, which is worse, if you're hiding something. 3 days after Karen received the county inquiry, a new email went out to every HOA member. Subject line: clarification regarding external property miscommunication. Miscommunication. That was the word she chose. Not threat, not enforcement, not physical intervention. Miscommunication. They live forever, and some of her own board members still had the originals. The ones where she said, "Boundaries can change. We'll make him comply. Force if necessary." You can't call that miscommunication. That's intent. 2 board members requested an emergency review meeting. Not about me, about her. That's when panic starts. When your own allies ask questions. They met without residents, but not without tension. One member reportedly asked, "Did you threaten physical action against someone outside our jurisdiction?" Karen tried to pivot. "He's destabilizing property values." Wrong answer, because one member replied quietly, "Threats destabilize property values." During the review, someone pulled the HOA's annual budget. Line item: Boundary Expansion Legal Fund. Allocated for 3 years. Unused. But recently, expenses appeared: consultation fees, surveying costs, legal drafts, all tied to expanding the HOA footprint, including my address. Turns out she'd hired a private surveyor to reinterpret the boundary line. But reinterpretation isn't law. Recording is. And she never recorded it. Because the county rejected it. Twice. Not for arrest, for explanation. That's worse. Because now she has to talk. And everything she says becomes record. She told them I verbally agreed to join. There was silence on the line. Then the county official asked, "Do you have documentation?" She didn't. Because it never happened. My doorbell footage didn't just capture threats. It captured her walking onto my porch without permission. Twice. That matters. Trespass warnings don't need drama, just evidence. The county sent her a formal advisory. Any further attempt to enforce HOA rules beyond recorded jurisdiction may constitute harassment and coercion. That language isn't casual. It's a warning shot. Word spread, quietly at first, then openly. Why is she fighting someone who isn't even in the HOA? Why are our dues paying for this? Is she trying to annex properties? That word, annex, stuck. A small group of residents drafted a request for transparency. They wanted to review legal expenses, boundary proposals, communications regarding external enforcement. Karen didn't like that, not one bit. She posted a statement on the HOA portal. Outside interference is creating unnecessary hostility. Outside interference. That was me. Apparently existing on my own property was hostile. One board member went further, requested a financial audit. That's when fear shifts from external to internal, because audits don't look at just one thing. They look at everything. She showed up once more, not yelling, not threatening, different energy. "You've caused division," she said. I opened the door halfway. "No," I replied. I revealed it. That hit harder than any argument. She tried something new. "Join voluntarily," she said. "We'll waive first-year dues." I almost smiled. So this wasn't about standards or visual perimeters. It was about numbers, votes, control. "I don't need protection from something I'm not part of." She clenched her jaw. "You're making enemies." "No," I said calmly. "I'm setting boundaries." That word stung. Behind closed doors, they voted on a motion of no confidence. It didn't pass, but it was close. Again. The room wasn't loyal anymore. It was divided. Short, direct, delivered certified. Cease and desist all communication and enforcement attempts regarding property outside recorded HOA jurisdiction. Failure to comply will result in legal action. This wasn't bluff, it was structure. 3 days later, the HOA portal went quiet. No updates, no statements, no threats, just silence. That's how you know pressure is working. After reviewing communications, the county issued a formal boundary confirmation notice. Stamped, filed, public. It clearly outlined, "My property is not and has never been subject to HOA governance." There was no gray area left. At the next HOA meeting, a resident asked, "Why did we spend money trying to absorb a property that legally isn't ours?" Karen didn't answer. Because there isn't one. How much did this cost? Why were threats made? Are we liable? Liability is the word that changes rooms. Subject: moving forward. She wrote, "In light of clarified boundaries, we will focus on internal matters. No apology, no acknowledgement, just retreat. Because residents had seen something. Control that didn't belong to them. Money used without transparency. Threats made casually. And once people see that, they don't forget." She drove by slowly, didn't stop, didn't stare, just passed. For the first time since I moved in, she looked uncertain. This was never about lawns, or trucks, or standards. It was about expansion, and someone finally said no. The HOA hired an independent auditor. Not Karen's friend, not someone from recommended vendors. Independent. And independence is dangerous when you've been playing games. 3 weeks later, the report landed in every board member's inbox. 47 pages, color-coded, documented, uncomfortable. Legal consultation fees tied to boundary reinterpretation. Survey costs rejected by the county, twice. Board votes recorded as unanimous when minutes showed objections. $18,400 in expenses labeled Community Defense Initiative, Community Defense. That was me. Someone outside their jurisdiction. Page 32. The auditor wrote, "Expenditures were made in pursuit of governance expansion without legal standing and without full board authorization." That sentence doesn't scream. It detonates quietly. Residents packed the clubhouse. Not for cookies, not for updates, for answers. Karen sat at the front table. Same posture, different energy. A retired attorney stood up. Did you authorize spending member dues attempting to annex property not legally part of this HOA? She tried the familiar tone. We were protecting long-term property values. He didn't sit down. That's not what I asked. Silence, one by one. Each invoice, each payment, each rejected boundary filing. The room shifted from confusion to anger. Someone stood up holding a printed copy. Her message, "We'll seize compliance by force if necessary." He asked, "Is this your email?" She didn't deny it, because you can't deny your own signature. A board member cleared her throat. I move for immediate removal of the HOA president pending vote of residents. Gasps, then clapping, soft at first, then louder, hands raised, more than required. It wasn't close, it wasn't dramatic, it was decisive. Karen was removed from presidency that night. The county had already been reviewing the harassment complaint. The audit gave them context. Threats, unauthorized enforcement attempts, trespass documentation, pattern, not mistake, pattern. The county issued a written reprimand to the HOA as an entity. Further attempts to expand jurisdiction without legal amendment would trigger fines and potential dissolution proceedings. That word again. Dissolution. It travels fast. My attorney didn't sue. Not yet. He sent something sharper. A civil demand for reimbursement of legal fees incurred due to repeated harassment. Professional, measured, precise. Here's what most HOA boards don't realize. Their liability insurance doesn't cover intentional misconduct. The carrier reviewed the audit and denied coverage for actions taken outside jurisdiction, which meant, if this escalated, board members could be personally liable. That changes loyalty instantly. 2 board members stepped down within the week. Personal reasons. Translation: we don't want our names attached to this. 3 days later, I received a letter. Not an email. Hand-delivered. From Karen. Short. Controlled. I acted in what I believed were the best interests of the community. I regret any escalation. Notice what's missing? No admission. No apology. Just regret that it escalated. I didn't respond. Sometimes silence is the cleanest answer. Residents voted in a new board. Transparency became the campaign slogan. Financial oversight, clear boundaries, no expansion attempts. And here's the part that surprised everyone. One of the loudest voices for reform? The same retired attorney who questioned her. He became president. First motion passed. The HOA shall not pursue jurisdictional expansion without 75% resident approval and recorded county validation. Translation: never again. A month later, I saw her. Not in a leadership seat, not organizing, just walking her dog. No one stopped to chat. No one lingered. Power leaves quietly. 6 weeks after the vote, the HOA announced a refund credit. Small amount. Symbolic. Money reimbursed from unnecessary legal spending. Residents got part of their dues back. It wasn't about the amount. It was about acknowledgement. It only works when people don't question it. The moment someone says, "Show me the authority," everything changes. From the new HOA president, professional, clear. We confirm your property is independent and will not be contacted regarding HOA governance in the future. Stamped, filed, closed. This was never about grass height, or mailbox color, or community harmony. It was about unchecked authority, and the assumption that no one would push back. No more knock on the door, no more emails, no more threats. Just peace. The kind that comes when boundaries are respected. Karen didn't lose because I fought. She lost because evidence spoke. Documentation matters. Calm matters. Standing firm matters. And the next time someone says, "You'll comply," remember this story and ask them, under what authority?